I went to UC Davis and it was hard. UC Berkeley will be much harder. You should consider going to a state school instead. That's the advice my high school teacher gave me when I told him I had been accepted to UC Berkeley. Hi everyone, my name is Rosa Maria. I'm a career coach for first generation professionals and women of color professionals. Today I have a story time that takes us back to high school. It truly is a story about being underestimated, and this story really illustrates the first generation experience. So let's go back to high school. I was a highly responsible first generation high school student. I was one of those students that showed up early to all of my classes, and if I didn't, I had a valid reason for not showing up. I showed up to class early as usual, and it was just my teacher and we were, kind of awkwardly chatting, and he asked about my college plans. I told him I had been accepted to UC Berkeley and all the other schools that I had been accepted to. He took a moment to process what I had said as if it was a surprise to him. After processing the news, he asked me what was my SAT score, and I told him my SAT score, he thought it was low. So he called me over to the wall and pointed to this poster that he had where it listed SAT scores. And he told me that I needed a score closer to 1600 to be successful at UC Berkeley. At that moment in time, I remember I had a seat in his class. And so now he had one data point, my C grade in his class, and he had my low SAT score as a second data point. And that's when he started making assumptions about who I was as a high school student and how successful I could be at UC Berkeley. As the discussion was unfolding, I was confused because I knew that UC Berkeley was a good school. At that point in time, as a first generation high school student, I didn't know that UC Berkeley was regarded the top public university. During lunchtime, I talked to my high school friends and I told them about this kind of weird conversation I had with my teacher. And the migrant coordinator overheard me because we were in his office eating lunch and chatting as we always did. And he was like, wait, what happened? Explain to me. And then his response was, that is really inappropriate behavior. It was through this discussion with the coordinator that I realized that this particular high school teacher didn't believe in my capability to succeed in school at UC Berkeley. But I think that the most impactful part of this was that I no longer felt safe in this class. Technically, there's a belief when you're in high school that, your teachers are gonna have your back. And this was the moment that I realized that this particular teacher didn't have my back. He didn't feel like a safe teacher because he didn't believe in me. It definitely changed the dynamic of my relationship to that class. There was now this feeling that I was being evaluated and that I needed to prove to him that I was capable and able to be successful. So was my high school teacher's assessment of my capability correct? No, it wasn't. He made an assessment of my ability based on two data points: my grade in the class and my low SAT score. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know me at all. He didn't know that I was determined to get an A because I wanted to finish with A's and B's my last semester. I wanted to feel competent and deserving of being admitted to the colleges. I was even much more responsible than I had even been before because I needed closure. After the incident, I even felt more compelled to work harder to prove him wrong. But the challenge is that when you're first generation high school student and incoming college student is that you're already questioning your ability. You are already living life wondering if you're able, capable, if you are deserving of success. So when your teachers question you more, or you've come to face with somebody who questions you, it is so hard to move past it, to gather that belief. You really do need cheerleaders in your corner. And I was lucky that I had been in academic bound programs through the migrant office and through EOP. As a first gen, you need to be reassured that you're able and capable to be successful. What happened after the incident is that I was working really hard in this class. So it's, the end of the year. We had a scholarship celebration for like kind of local scholarships, and I was going to receive a few local scholarships. And so I remember being in that celebration with my flashcards and studying for his class. So I didn't even get the privilege of kind of sitting down and listening to what the speakers were saying. At the end of the day, I remember doing really well in his class. I did well in all of my classes that last semester. And I got accepted to almost all the universities. I applied to all of the UCs in California, many state schools, and kind of the one private school, Santa Clara University. And I got accepted to almost all of them. I got accepted to UC Davis, UC Santa Cruz, UC Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, Santa Clara University, Fresno State. So the question was, what was missing in his assessment? Who was I as a high school student? How did he get things wrong? His assessment really didn't capture me as a person, as a high school student. Both my parents are field workers, and it was in the 8th grade that I realized that my only pathway out of being low income was college. He didn't know that I was a super hardworking first generation Mexican immigrant high school student determined to get out of poverty. He didn't know that I had taken 2 summer school classes to be on track for college and had aced these classes. He didn't know that because of these 2 A's at the college level that I would graduate with a 4.0 GPA from my high school. He didn't know that to get to these classes that I would wake up at 6 in the morning, walk down a mountain for about 2 miles, catch that city bus to go into the city, get off at the bus transit station, and then walk another 30 minutes to the community college. He didn't know me well enough to know how committed and to know the actions and behaviors that I took day in and day out to be ready for college. He also didn't know that I was the eldest in my family. He didn't know that I had played a maternal parenting role since elementary school. I was getting my brothers ready for school, walking them to the bus stop, feeding them with the little cooking skills that I had. I was disciplining them as they were getting older. And the hardest part being a high school student, school was not hard. I had to do a lot to be on track for college, and that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was choosing to go to college and leave my brothers behind. I don't believe this teacher did it of bad will. He really probably thought college is really hard and maybe you don't have the skill set to meet that expectation. He made a judgment call based on 2 data points, and those data points were highly inaccurate. They didn't paint the picture of this highly responsible high school student who is deeply motivated, deeply committed, who was willing to do everything in her power to get into a college and to succeed at the college level. School may have been the hardest thing that he did, but life was the hardest thing I had to do. At 17, I had to make the heartbreaking decisions of leaving my family structure, of leaving my brothers. That was the hardest part. Choosing my academics, my career goals over my family. And first generation high school students, college students, professionals have to make these decisions day in and day out. And it feels selfish, to be honest. And even today as a professional, I question whether it had been the right choice. Depending on what's going on in any given month or, any given year, I wonder if the outcomes would have been better if I had not gone to college. So for him, college was hard. Life was hard for me. When you're the daughter of Mexican immigrant farm workers who are in poverty, you have to do hard things. And honestly, there's very little room for you to be afraid of making hard choices. I think the main point is to know that for first-gen professionals, those of you who are the first in your families to go to college, to enter a professional field, you are probably so used to doing hard things, making hard choices. Schools, skill building, that's all tough to do, but possible. But the hard choices that you have to make in your personal life to get to where you want to go is the hardest part. It's what makes you resilient. So did I go to UC Berkeley? Yes, I went to UC Berkeley. And I graduated with a BA in psychology and sociology. And then I went to UC Berkeley again. I got a master's of social welfare. But before I leave, I want to be very clear. Going to a state school is not a bad thing. State schools are excellent schools. After being in the workplace for about 9 years, I realized that the degree itself doesn't matter as much as your ability to stand out in your career or profession. The issue with his advice is that stories from first-gen high school students or college students or students of color is that they are tracked into state schools. When I got to UC Berkeley and we talked about the challenges that we got, there were plenty of stories of first gens or students of color being told to go to a state school instead of a private school or into a UC school. So there's tracking of students of color into state schools because teachers have a biased perspective about their ability and capability to succeed in top tier universities. Had my high school teacher asked my academic counselor how I was doing, he would have known that I had a solid GPA to get into colleges, that I was deeply committed to getting into college, into any college. I share this story so that if you are a current first generation high school student or college student, that you know that you are not alone in the journey. Yes, you will be underestimated by a lot of people. Sometimes they will be your peers, sometimes they will be your teachers, it may be your family, and that's okay. People can underestimate you. I just want you to not underestimate yourself. And if you have an experience like me where you're balancing a job and caretaking duties for a family or your siblings, know that all of that skill set of balancing general life is what gets you through college, is what gets you through the difficulties of being a first gen in kind of an exclusive place. Taking care of your parents or your siblings or being a translator, making adult level decisions is what makes you resilient, and it helps you thrive at the college level. So If you're looking for a first generation career coach who can support you on your journey as a first gen college student and professional, follow the channel. I will also be sharing career tips for you to get noticed in the workplace faster. I will be making many more videos around the different challenges, but also the benefits of being a first gen. I've had to carve my own path along the way, and so now I want to share it with all of the young folks who are graduating or who are in their first few years in the workplace. They need a little bit of guidance and direction on how to live the life that you want within the career that you want. If you feel like you want to share a story about how you've been underestimated, drop it down in the comment section. Talk soon. Bye.